Hey everyone, Crow back again, and what you're looking at now is Pinball Breeze, a game released on Steam on March 28th, 2025 from Sligware LLC. The standard asking price of this game at the time of this video is $9.99. So there's actually a couple of reasons I decided to make a video on this game, and the main one is that I don't think enough people know about it. And the way I found out about the game's existence is that Daniel from Sligware emailed me out of the blue on April 28th, offering me a key for the game and considered that I make a video for it on my channel. So I checked the game's story page on Steam to see if it would be something I'd actually want to play, and the whole concept of the game seemed very interesting to me. It looked like a pretty surreal pinball game that wasn't trying to simulate anything real, but what really got me interested was the fact that you could add additional features to each of the tables. It kind of reminded me of Pinball Construction Set in a way. So I agreed to accept the key for the game and let them know that I would be making a video. I just didn't know when that would be. Well, I guess that time is now. This game includes 9 tables over the span of 3 different environments. There's 3 in the billiards room, 3 in Tranquil Shores, and 3 in Celestial Clockwork, all in order of difficulty. You don't need to unlock any of these tables, they're just available as soon as you boot the game, but it's probably a good idea to play them in order anyway, just because they do get harder and more complicated as you proceed. So the way this works is you select a table and are presented with a limited number of elements that you could add to the table, such as flippers, pop bumpers, slingshots, and exclusive to the Celestial Clockwork tables are gravity wells and repulsors. You could place them almost anywhere you'd like as long as they're within the bounds of the play area and it doesn't overlap with anything else. You could also play the table without adding any elements if you want. When you start the game, a turret pops up from somewhere in the table and rotates back and forth until you hit a flipper button, and that'll fire the ball onto the table. Now, unlike a regular pinball game where your only goal is to get the highest score that you can, in Pinball Breeze, while that's your objective here as well, your main goal while you're playing is to just hit all the targets. There are cards on the left side of the screen indicating a series of targets and counting them off as you get them. When you eliminate a group of targets, that can trigger more targets to appear on the table. When every single target in the table has been eliminated, the turret that launched the ball will pop back up, and feeding the ball back to the turret will end the level and provide a bonus for completing all the goals. I think you even get a bigger bonus if you can complete the table without adding additional elements to the table before you begin playing. But regardless of if you manage to complete all the table goals before draining all of your balls, your score will be tracked on the leaderboard. Each table has 2 leaderboards, one for 3-ball play and one for 1-ball play. When you start getting to the bigger tables, it might seem very difficult to hit some of the targets, but you do have the option of tilting the ball left or right. Well, the game itself calls it tilting, but that's not really what it is. In real pinball, tilting means that you've moved the table too much and the machine just ends your ball right then and there and also forfeits any bonus points you had coming. This is more like nudging the ball itself more in the direction you want it to go, whether it be left or right. You could do this as often as you'd like without worrying about any sort of penalty. The only caveat is that after you quote-unquote tilt the ball, there's a little bit of a cooldown period before you can do it again. Once you get the hang of this feature, hitting certain targets becomes a lot easier. Now for me, the fun of the game comes from the trial and error aspect. Before you've even played the table, you're guessing as to where the best spots to add the additional table elements would be. Then you'll start playing and realize, oh, this is a bad spot for this flipper. Or maybe this slingshot would work better over here, and you'll fine-tune the placement of everything until you can complete the table. And even when you can do it, it can still be fun to experiment to see if you can get a higher score. Some people might not like the fact that there's really no music in the game. It's just ambient background noises as you're playing. But honestly, I think I prefer it this way. As I'd play, I'd listen to music or a podcast, and this game actually complemented that in a very good way. I also did play many games without my own background noise, and I will say that it can get pretty dull at times, especially in the bigger tables, because you'll eventually run into a situation where you'll have very few targets left to hit, and you'll just be hitting the ball around for a while trying to figure out where the targets you're missing are. Then you might even find it impossible to hit some of them because of where you placed an object, meaning you'll have to end the game, move the object, and start it all over again. I also need to mention that you actually have two camera views to choose from, and all of the game footage you've seen so far is from the bird's eye view, which is the default viewpoint and the one I prefer. The other camera option is the lowdown view, which is more akin to what the viewpoint would be if you were actually standing at a pinball table. And while it looks pretty cool, the moment the camera starts scrolling up and down the playfield, well, to me it just doesn't work. I feel that viewpoint only really works if the camera is stationary, and for a game like this that's not trying to simulate a real pinball machine, the overhead view works perfectly fine. Another thing I had to get used to were the ball physics in the game because it's not that realistic, at least when you compare it to something like Pinball FX. But again, I don't have so much of an issue with that because the game isn't trying to be realistic. Now, before I wrap things up here, I do want to give a mention that there are plenty of graphical options here that you can adjust to make the game run better on your computer if you need to. And right now, you'll see the game running with the lowest graphical options, and I don't think that you're losing too much here at all. It's still totally playable, and that's really the most important thing here. The game is not Steam Deck verified, but it will run on the Steam Deck, and this footage here is being captured off of the Steam Deck. But if you're playing on the Steam Deck, the one thing you do have to do is lower the default graphic settings to medium or low, because the default high setting is totally unplayable on the Steam Deck, mostly because of the flipper lag. And with that, I'll finish it up here. If the game looks even remotely interesting, I'd say at least add it to your Steam wishlist so you don't forget about it. And maybe tell other people about it, because this game really does have a unique concept, and it's not badly priced at all, and I think more people should be made aware of it. Alright, see you next time.